It was a time when the galaxy was home to countless species, each one having evolved on vastly different worlds under varying conditions. The civilizations that spanned across the stars were as varied as the species themselves, and for centuries, these races believed in the immutable order of nature. The strongest survived, the fiercest reigned, and the most adaptable conquered. Among these powerful and established species, there was one world that was regarded as peculiar, a place of little interest to the galaxy at large, and that world was Earth. The humans who called it home were seen as soft, fragile, and unremarkable. The very idea that they might have the ability to be something more was laughable to the other species of the galaxy. Earth was a death world, but not in the way many species understood the term. Yes, it was dangerous. The creatures that roamed its surface, the harsh environments, and the unforgiving ecosystems made it a hostile world, but humans were not designed by nature to be apex predators. Their physical strength was minimal compared to many of the galactic species, their bodies weak and fragile by comparison, and their technology, though advanced, was still rudimentary by the standards of the greatest civilizations. The common belief across the stars was that humans, for all their ingenuity, were still the weakest of species, destined to be prey in a galaxy of predators. But that was before they saw what happened when a human, a seemingly ordinary being, came face to face with one of the galaxy's most feared apex predators. The Teesrath were a species that few had ever dared to challenge. They were an apex predator from a world far away, a race of towering creatures with thick, armored hides that could withstand nearly any attack. Their muscular bodies were honed for combat, capable of great feats of strength, and their claws, sharper than any blade, could rip through steel like tissue paper. They were carnivores, highly intelligent and cunning hunters who relied on their physical prowess and razor-sharp instincts to dominate their environment. To any species that encountered them, the Teesrath were a threat unlike any other. Few had survived encounters with them, and those who did were forever marked by the experience. For centuries, the Teesrath had built a reputation as the most fearsome hunters in the galaxy. Their homeworld was a place of constant struggle, a brutal environment where only the strongest could survive. They were solitary hunters, each one competing with the other for dominance. Their society was based on strength, and only the strongest were allowed to pass their genes on to the next generation. Any weakness was met with death, and they had no tolerance for anything that could challenge their supremacy. The idea that any other species could rival them, let alone defeat them, was laughable to the Teesrath. And then the human entered the arena. The Teesrath had already participated in several of these competitions and had won each one with ease. No one could challenge their dominance. But this time, something was different. The event organizers had invited a human to participate in the competition, and this human, whose name was Nathan, was no ordinary individual. Nathan had spent his life on Earth, honing skills that had been passed down through generations of his ancestors. He had grown up in the harsh wilderness of Earth, learning to survive, not by strength alone, but through ingenuity, adaptability, and an unparalleled will to survive. Nathan had learned from the most brutal environments on Earth, the deep forests, the towering mountains, and the open deserts. He had faced predators far more dangerous than anything the galaxy had to offer, from massive predators with jaws capable of crushing bone to creatures that relied on speed, camouflage, and cunning to hunt their prey. He had faced countless challenges and had survived them all, not because he was stronger or faster, but because he had learned to use the world around him to his advantage. It was this tenacity and ingenuity that had drawn the attention of the Galactic Hunting Federation, who, intrigued by the human's reputation for surviving in hostile environments, invited Nathan to test his skills against the greatest predators in the galaxy. When Nathan arrived at the hunting grounds, the other competitors, including the Teesrath, looked at him with scorn. They regarded him as nothing more than a curious specimen from a primitive world. His human body was small and fragile by their standards, and his gear-light armor, simple weapons seemed laughable compared to the advanced technology and devastating weaponry that most of the other competitors possessed. The Teesrath especially sneered at Nathan. Their leader, a towering creature named Groll, was particularly disdainful. Groll had never been defeated in combat, and he found it insulting that he would even have to compete with a human. He assumed that Nathan, like the other participants, would be overwhelmed by the sheer power of the creatures they would face. The competition began, and the rules were simple. Each hunter was tasked with capturing or killing a series of increasingly dangerous creatures. Some of the creatures were familiar to the galaxy's greatest hunters, while others were unknown, terrifying beasts that had never been seen before. The first few rounds were straightforward. Each predator dispatched their assigned prey with relative ease, demonstrating their strength, speed, and expertise. Nathan, however, seemed to be operating at a different level altogether. While the other hunters used sheer force to overpower their opponents, Nathan used strategy and cunning to outwit his. He employed traps, distractions, and calculated movements, making the most of every advantage the terrain and environment could offer. But it was when the Teesrath and Nathan faced the ultimate challenge, an encounter with an apex predator of unimaginable ferocity, that the true difference between their approaches became clear. The creature they faced was a deadly, massive beast known as the Vraka, a creature that was more than capable of tearing apart any predator it encountered. The Vraka was a nightmare, a towering monster with an armored hide, claws like obsidian blades, and a ferocious temper. It was known as one of the most dangerous creatures in the galaxy, and it had been brought in specifically for this challenge. No one had ever defeated the Vraka in a hunting competition, and it was widely believed that no creature could. Groll, with his immense strength and experience, charged at the Vraka first, determined to prove that the Teesrath were the undisputed apex predators. His massive claws slashed at the beast's hide, and his roar echoed across the arena. For a moment, it seemed as though the Teesrath would triumph, but the Vraka was not so easily defeated. With a swipe of its enormous claws, it sent Groll flying, knocking the wind out of him and leaving him stunned on the ground. The Teesrath were powerful, but their brute strength had failed them against the Vraka's raw power and agility. Nathan, however, approached the situation with a different mindset. While Groll and the other predators charged in, relying on their physical power, Nathan observed the Vraka from a distance. He studied its movements, its patterns, and its behavior. He noticed the small vulnerabilities, the areas where the creature's armor was not as thick, the moments when it was most vulnerable. Nathan knew that he could not defeat the Vraka with sheer strength, but he didn't need to. He had one weapon that the others didn't: his intellect. Nathan devised a plan. He lured the Vraka into a trap, using his knowledge of the arena's terrain to his advantage. The creature, drawn by the scent of Nathan's bait, charged at him with terrifying speed. But Nathan had already set the stage. He led the Vraka toward a narrow ravine where the creature's massive size would be a disadvantage. As the Vraka lunged, Nathan quickly ducked out of the way, causing the beast to stumble and fall into the trap. The Vraka was trapped in a deep pit, unable to climb out. For the first time, the mighty creature was vulnerable. Nathan, using his weaponry and the limited resources at his disposal, approached the pit. With calculated precision, he struck at the creature's weak points, targeting its unprotected underbelly. The battle lasted only moments, but by the end of it, Nathan had done what no one thought possible. He had defeated the Vraka, not through brute force, but through sheer ingenuity. The arena fell silent. The other competitors, including the Teesrath, stared in disbelief. They had seen many hunters fall before the Vraka, but a mere human, had killed the beast. Nathan's victory was not just a testament to his skill as a hunter, but a reminder to the galaxy that strength alone was not the key to survival. It was adaptability, intelligence, and the ability to think outside the box that made a true predator. The Teesrath, once so confident in their dominance, were left in awe of the humans' abilities. For the first time, they realized that the galaxy's greatest predator might not be the strongest or the most physically imposing, but the one who could outsmart, outthink, and adapt to the challenges before them. Nathan had proven that even the weakest creatures could rise to the challenge, and that no predator, no matter how mighty, was invincible